Yo, what's up you guys? Welcome back to Second Take. It's Vishwa here, and yes, I'm finally back from my long absence, similar to what Soph said in our previous video, as we were taking an extended break from the channel as we are not full-time YouTubers, and today we're going to be discussing a team that is going to be very interesting next season, and that team is the Houston Rockets. In today's video, we're going to be discussing a little bit on how the post-Harden era Rockets have fared so far, and then slowly move our way into the off-season plans, primarily the upcoming 2021 NBA Draft, and a bit on possible trades the Rockets can make to improve their young core. Though the Rockets may be a bad team right now, as they finished last season with a 17-55 record, this was definitely to be expected following a departure from MVP James Harden, constant injuries, and a very young team with limited experience and just pure raw talent. However, there are a lot of bright spots Houston has that could strengthen their squad for the future, along with draft assets and trades. So without delay, please make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I promise you will not regret it, and let's get straight into the video. To begin with, the Rockets, as I said, are coming off a rough 17-55 season following Harden's departure, and for the moment, it doesn't really seem like they're going to be a contending team for quite a while. Unfortunately, they didn't get the best return for Harden, as they originally received Caris LeVert, but then ended up trading him away for Victor Oladipo, which was a huge mistake. Oladipo would then end up being traded for Kelly Olynyk and Avery Bradley. So if you put this in perspective, the Rockets received Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and 4 first-round picks, which is a positive for James Harden. But it wasn't all bad for the Rockets, as firstly, they made a gem signing, stealing Christian Wood in free agency last season, who has blossomed into a near all-star player already, and then they pretty much stole Kevin Porter Jr. for just a second-round pick from the Cavs, and then made amazing draft decisions with current all-rookie first-team forward Jaylen Tate and second-round pick Kenyon Martin Jr. Christian Wood no doubt has been the biggest bright spot for the Rockets thus far, as he averaged 21 points and nearly 10 rebounds on 37% three-point shooting. He was also in serious all-star consideration for the West before unfortunately going down with an injury, which is probably the biggest concern for him going forward, as Wood has not been the best durable player thus far. Wood has been playing at a really high level and has been compared to Anthony Davis due to his all-around skill set, athleticism, stretch ability, rim protecting, and he appears to be one of the Rockets' franchise pieces going forward. Another franchise piece for the Rockets is probably Kevin Porter Jr. Porter has absolutely shocked the NBA world, going from the Cavs G League to an alpha type of role with the Rockets. He averaged about 17 points, 6 assists, and 4 boards, but the biggest flaws were his efficiency, consistency, and his decision making, as he shot only 42% from the field and 31% from behind the arc, and had about 4 to 5 turnovers a game. But his potential could not be denied at all, as he had a shocking 50-point game at a point and had a lot of double-double games, racking up over 10 assists on several nights, and many fans even started to have hope for KPJ as their next James Harden. Finally, they do have solid young pieces like Jaylen Tate and Kenyon Martin Jr. Tate has proven to be one of the biggest surprises from this year's rookie class, being undrafted, and has been an absolute beast, averaging 11 points, 5 boards, and 3 assists, shooting 50% from the field and 30% from the three-point line, thus earning him an all-rookie first-team honors. His overall game has been like that of a poor man's shorter Zion Williamson due to his physical play for his size and defense. If his shooting improves, he could blossom into a very huge piece for the Rockets going forward. KJ Martin, on the other hand, has been a huge surprise as well, averaging 9 points, 5 boards, shooting 37% from 3, and he started to break out late season, displaying his strength and athleticism in the paint and shooting, thus giving the Rockets another young forward with a lot of potential. I know you guys may be thinking why I'm not mentioning Kelly Olynyk or John Wall, but that's simply because I simply don't see either of them being a part of the Rockets' future going forward. Wall, for starters, is a former All-Star who did play very good for the Rockets, but he is not at the point of his career to be playing with a rebuilding Rockets team with much younger players, and he is 30 years old, owed $41 million a year on his contract, and simply isn't the All-Star he once was due to injuries. Although Kelly Olynyk absolutely broke out in the short stint he had with Houston, putting up 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists a night on 39% three-point shooting and 54% overall, he likely won't remain with the Rockets due to the fact that he is an unrestricted free agent and is likely gonna be looking for a huge payday this offseason, and I doubt Kelly wants to remain in Houston as well. Now, before we dive into our focus into the upcoming draft for the Rockets, I'd like to first examine a couple of possible trades the Rockets could make revolving around John Wall. This first trade I have is a trade with the 76ers that we actually have brought up in a previous video. This This trade features the Rockets giving away Wall and a future first-round pick to the 76ers for Ben Simmons and Furkan Korkmaz. I feel like this trade will heavily benefit the Houston, as Simmons, though he had a horrendous playoff performance, can definitely play at a much higher level in a better situation like that of a Houston with less pressure. He can truly blossom into an elite two-way player, and the Rockets would have loaded talent with him, KPJ Wood, and the number 2 overall draft pick, which I'll get into in a bit. This trade also works out for the Sixers because of the lack of scoring they had offensively, which was really detrimental to the team, and adding an explosive scorer with a reliable jump shot like John Wall can really bolster the team along with his great defense and playmaking. The Sixers would be deeper contenders in this process, while the Rockets get Simmons, a young player who still has a lot of potential to be an elite player. Another trade Houston can do is with the New York Knicks. In this trade, the Rockets are giving up both Wall and power forward DJ Wilson to the Knicks for Obi Toppin, Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, and a future first-round pick and possibly another second. Obi Toppin, who has a lot of potential, simply doesn't seem to have found a home in New York, and you can't really blame him given that Julius Randle, who was an all-star this season, is starting for the team. With a fresh start in the Rockets, where he'd have a much bigger role, maybe starting at the 4, he can really thrive off lobs from KPJ and work well with Wood in the front court. Knox and Ntilikina are also players that could revive their careers in Houston, as they'd have a fresh start as well in a better situation where they can have much less pressure on them. As for the Knicks, they are currently a team looking to contend even further in the playoffs, coming off a first-round elimination as 4th seed. It is clear that point guard is a primary need for them, and they would get that in John Wall, who would also be able to be another reliable scorer aside from all-star Julius Randle. Wilson will also get to serve as more front court depth for the team. Either way, the Rockets are bound to get something very solid in return for Wall to bolster their young squad, whether it's solid young assets or draft capital. Speaking of draft capital, that's where we transition to our next segment of the video, which involves the upcoming 2021 NBA draft. Many expected the Rockets to land the number 1 pick in this year's draft, but unfortunately they did end up getting the 2nd pick, but it really isn't the worst outcome given the amount of loaded talent in this year's draft class compared to a weaker class last year. To the dismay of all fans, the Detroit Pistons ended up with the 1st pick in this year's draft, and for good reason, as this franchise has been known to be a very boring franchise that also ruins careers, and fans weren't very happy about that either. Although there are many reports of the Pistons having a surprise interest in Jalen Green of the G League Ignite team, I likely easily see them taking the Oklahoma State superstar Cade Cunningham. Although Cade may have been an exciting player to watch in Houston, I also think that this is also a blessing in disguise for the Rockets getting the 2nd pick, mainly because of how Cade and their current combo guard Kevin Porter Jr. share similar qualities in their ball-dominant styles with both scoring and playmaking as well. As for who the Rockets' ideal pick in this year's draft would be, I'll be addressing their current possibilities and number 2. The 3 clear-cut options at the 2nd pick to me and to most people are Jalen Green, as I discussed earlier, USC big man Evan Mobley, and Gonzaga star guard Jaylen Suggs. For starters, I don't think selecting either of these 3 guys could go very wrong for the Rockets, with Mobley being more of a boomer bust option, but it's just a matter of who is the best choice and best fit for Houston. The option I would immediately like to rule out is Jaylen Suggs. Suggs is definitely an excellent player, as he's a 6'4" combo guard that averaged 14.4 points, 5.3 boards, and 4.5 assists, shooting 50% from the field and 33% from 3, also averaging 3 turnovers. I know that stats don't tell the true story, as college and the G League are different in their own ways, but Suggs does do a bit of everything: playmaking, shooting, shot creating, defense, and is also really athletic and finishing. If it comes down to selecting a guard to play next to KPJ, there is a few reasons why I would be selecting Jalen Green over Suggs at number 2. Firstly, I do see Green having a much higher ceiling than Suggs, even though Suggs may be more NBA ready from the start. Secondly, Green also seems like a much better fit next to KPJ to play the shooting guard position. Green averaged 17.9 points, 4.1 boards, and 2.8 assists, shooting 46% from the field and 37% from 3, and with 3 turnovers as well. To me, Green is proven to be the better shooter, scorer, and has greater size at 6'6" than Suggs. As I stated before, Green has a higher ceiling and was an absolute human highlight reel in the G League, along with Jonathan Kuminga, another expected high lottery pick. Not only does that, but he also fits better next to KPJ because he adds more size and better shooting and scoring only as a shooting guard, while KPJ can play the point guard position, doing more playmaking. Suggs is a reliable option, but would not add as much potential as Green. In addition, Green has also stated that he sees sees a scary backcourt with him and KPJ as the backcourt for Houston. Not only that, but executives also believe that Houston will prefer Green as opposed to Suggs or Evan Mobley. And as for Mobley, I simply don't think this is ideal because of the low success rate big men that are selected high have coming into the league, with guys like Greg Oden, Sean Bradley, Hashim Thabit, Darko Milicic, and even Marvin Bagley, Onyeka Okongwu, Mo Bamba, and James Wiseman right now who are struggling, and Mobley could end up similar. Mobley is also only 215 pounds and would really get bullied in the post by stronger and more experienced big men in today's game. Christian Wood, the current big man, has also proved to be a star center, and the Rockets should focus more on the backcourt going into the draft. If you think about a Rockets core with Christian Wood, KPJ, Jalen Green, Kenyon Martin, Jayshawn Tate, and any solid material they'll receive from a John Wall trade, whether it's a solid young player like Ben Simmons or Obi Toppin, or if it's draft picks, although this team won't be a playoff team for a while, it definitely builds a terrific foundation of a young promising team with KPJ and Green being an exciting backcourt. This is exactly what the Rockets and the fans need after the Harden era ended. Anyway, these were my thoughts on how the Rockets should manage their roster going into next season with the draft, possible trade, and their outlook on the future. Let me know what you guys think about the Rockets, who they should draft, and the rest of the roster in the comments. Please smash that like button if you enjoyed, and remember to subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching, and peace.